Hello, my name is Tucker McCoy. I represent the New Orleans Metairie MSA group for the Urban Planning Methods class. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the urban analysis of one of the oldest um, metropolitan areas in the United States. The New Orleans Metairie MSA, as we can see here in southern Louisiana in this map, are mainly based around New Orleans itself as the only major city in the region. And New Orleans, founded in the early 1700s, actually predates the US itself. And so that's one of the major reasons that for this area specifically, we find a very rich history and cultural background. And that's something that we found shows up quite a bit in the data that we were able to collect and really highlight in the next slides. By virtue of being such a culturally and historically diverse city, it shows up in a lot of our community composition analysis, um, especially the racial and ethnic one, where a lot of the data shows that this MSA specifically has a much higher racial diversity than many others found in the United States. It's also more stable, as we've seen less um, change over time in this area. That racial diversity is maintained fairly consistently through the data that we were able to show. And it's also fairly well distributed through age and sex, as we can see here in this figure. It's more of a pillar shape, so we know that it's not experiencing super high rates of growth or decline. It's maintained fairly consistently over the past several decades, despite setbacks. And as we'll see in the next slides, this has been one of the more consistent factors of the New Orleans MSA. In terms of population growth, there's been not as fairly steep growth as some other statistical areas because things like the pandemic or an aging population have really slowed down a lot of the growth rates in this area. As we can see from this graph, we've even seen a slight decline in population over the past several years. And things like this make it difficult to predict future populations because it's hard to pinpoint exactly where setbacks will happen. But given our best estimates, we can predict within about 10 more years, we can see a growth up to about 1.3 million people in this statistical area. And those are going to be about our best estimations and projections for the amount of people that are going to be living here in 2030. In terms of economic analysis, this is a major port city in the United States, and it has been basically since its foundation. But other than that major portion, there's also a fairly robust tourism, arts, and entertainment sectors of the economy where a lot of entertainment is based. They have their festivals and things like that that draw in a lot of tourism and things like that. And that's really helped them recover from economic setbacks like Hurricane Katrina or things like the COVID pandemic and things like that. So overall, they've had a lot of problems in the past with economic recessions and recovering from downfalls, but they've shown to have fairly consistent positive growth, even if it is slow, and that's something to look forward to in the future. In terms of the equity distribution of this MSA, they do have some problems, especially around the New Orleans area specifically. This area has been a very historic southern city, and a lot of the equity distribution problems have been holdovers from past historical effects, such as like segregation or different political divides and things of that nature. But outside of the New Orleans city specifically, the issues are not as bad as we can see from this figure. Equity distribution doesn't have as bad of problems in the more rural areas of this MSA. So in conclusion, really as a summary, this New Orleans Metairie statistical area is really culturally and historically diverse, and that mainly shows up through its community composition in different economic sectors such as entertainment and different trades. One of the things that this MSA does struggle with the most is resilience to natural hazards, economic recessions, pandemics, things of that nature. Anything that has an impact on population, economics, and things like that really seem to have an amplified effect in this area compared to the United States as a whole. And this has really hurt its population and job growth historically over time. They do have periods of growth that is pretty consistent, but it is also interspaced with these downturns that really show up in a lot of the data that we've found. And so overall, those are the most important things about the New Orleans Metairie metropolitan statistical area. And those are the things that we highlight most in our report that we've created. And I think that pretty much sums it up.